Our next speaker today is Caroline Dunn. She's the VP of Marketing at Alexa Dev Group, which she will tell you a little bit about, I'm sure. And she's going to look into her crystal ball, I think, and share her thoughts about the future of cybersecurity and you, or us. Now, an interesting fact about Caroline is she's traveled to 42 countries. She says she's not in any sort of competition for those, but I will offer a challenge to the students in the room. I think traveling to different countries is a great way to learn about the world and globalization at its best. I mean, all of us in technology must recognize that technology is not limited by any lines we draw on maps. And so there can be some great lessons learned from traveling abroad and learning what other countries are doing. Sometimes we see some great innovations in action by visiting other places. So my challenge to you as students is I believe that you should have visited at least the number of countries of your age. So if you're 24 years old, you should have been to 24 countries. I'll let you guess my age, but what I can tell you is I have achieved my own challenge, and I have been to more countries than my age. But seriously, it's an interesting concept. Similarly, I challenge our students to visit the number of states of their age, and we can learn equally as much from traveling within our own country. In any case, so much for the challenge. Please join me in welcoming Caroline to the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I am super excited to be here. I'd like to start off by thanking Dr. Sandoval for putting this together and Dr. Spangler for inviting me here today. I drove down from Atlanta this morning, and just show of hands to get to know you guys. How many of you guys are undergrad? Graduate students? And then the ones that didn't raise their hand, what are you guys? All right. So I'm really honored to be here today. Thank you so much for having me. I want to talk about innovation, cybersecurity, and how it affects you and me both professionally and personally. Okay. All right, so why are we here today? We're here to talk about cybersecurity here today. This is the 4th annual Cybersecurity Conference. And why are we looking at cybersecurity? Why is it important? Just to get it started, we've always had criminals, and criminals adapt to change really well. And it's created this whole field for us now to talk about. Isn't that great? So moving on, I'm going to throw up some stats here, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, these stats about why we have so many hackers out there, why we have so many cyber criminals out there, how many of them really there are. So hackers attack every 39 seconds, on average 2,200 times a day. Is that about right from what you guys have been looking at? It's a lot. That's according to the University of Maryland, right? All right. Next, who was affected by the Equifax breach? Everybody in this room should raise your hand. That's the correct answer. You know how people get up here and say there's no right or wrong answer? There are right or wrong answers, y'all. This is school. All right. So yes, almost 150 million people affected by Equifax breach. That's according to Equifax themselves. All right. IoT devices. We're going to talk about IoT over and over and over again today. Okay. 5,200 attacks a month, and I estimate this year we have 31 billion IoT devices. We just learned about vape detectors in the bathrooms. How many? And you multiply that across every school, and you multiply that surveillance cameras. You know, I was in a yoga class one day, and the yoga instructor showed me some yoga move one day, and she says, "You should do this at the airport, when you're getting ready to fly." And it was this very awkward movement. Most of the yoga movements are very awkward, just for the record, in my opinion. And she's like, "Why don't you do this right before you get on the plane? You need to stretch it out." And I was like, "No, there are cameras everywhere. There's no way I'm doing that move in public." Okay, and then 94%, actually I've seen higher than this, I've seen 96% of malware is delivered by email. Now, how many of you guys got an email today saying, hey, your bank, needs you to fill out information, or you open an email, it tries to open up a program executable on your computer? I'm going to talk about that in the next slide a little bit more. But believe it or not, yeah, 94% of malware is delivered by email today. I think that is changing, and that will be one of my many predictions I make about cybersecurity. So let's talk about me here for a second. All right, I'm getting to my intro, but let's introduce myself by how many times my identity has been stolen. So let's start with me personally, okay? Let's see. I was looking through my credit card charges online one day, and I noticed that I subscribed to dial-up service one day, $19.99 a month for dial-up service. There were no, I don't look at my credit card every single day, so there were no other strange charges on my credit card. It was kind of just in the middle of my credit card. So I called the credit card company and I say, hey, I haven't lost my credit card. It wasn't gone or anything, but this is very bizarre that there's this, $19.99 charge for dial-up service on my card. And I said, should I cancel my credit card? I don't know. I haven't lost my credit card. $19.99 is not a big deal. And they said, cancel it. We're killing your credit card right now. So it turns out what hackers do is I had shopped at a retail location somewhere. They had stolen all the credit card information right there. And what they do to test to see if the credit card works or not is they sign you up for AOL, and you get a bill a month later. But they had stolen so many credit cards because it was a batch job that they did that they didn't have time to actually go buy real stuff. They didn't, they're just selling your credit card information to somebody else to go buy stuff with. They hadn't gotten around to actually buying anything good on my credit card. Yes, I'm part of the Equifax breach. Everybody in here should be part of the Equifax breach. I have shopped at Target in the past. I have shopped at the Home Depot in the past. I mean, it's getting to a point now you get that free, credit monitoring service because you have shopped at the Home Depot and then they have a big breach or something like that. And then by the time that free credit monitoring ends, somebody else gets a breach and then I get more free credit monitoring service. It's quite nice actually these days. And then Netflix, my Netflix account got hacked last year. First I get an email saying I changed my password. Then I get an email saying I changed my email address login. And then I upgraded myself from the lowest plan to the highest plan with 4 streaming programs altogether, and that was in Russia. That was, yes, it was a Russian hacker that got my Netflix account. I was really thinking, who'd want to hack my Netflix account? Is watching Orange is the New Black that interesting? I mean, is that worth my Netflix account? I don't know what they're doing. I don't know why they want to do that. Let's talk about it at work. We're going to get a little bit more serious now. So one day at my home, actually, this is work related. One day at my home, I get an email saying that, I get a letter from the IRS, not an email. I get a letter from the IRS saying that somebody tried to file my taxes for me in the IRS. And that year, I owed money to the IRS. And I thought, if somebody wants to file my taxes for me, can they please write a check too and pay for it? That'd be great. Yeah. So it turned out somebody at my workplace had received one of these phishing emails and thought it was from a legitimate vendor and ended up sending all of our payroll information to a hacker. And then I got 2 free years of credit monitoring service from my employer after that. So, and no, they did not pay my bill for me. I did have to pay my taxes. That was the worst part. All right. Same company. All of our servers went down one day. Some hacker had gotten in, took down all our clients, took down us, demanded 21 bitcoins. How much is 21 bitcoins? Yes. Yeah. And you know what we did? We had everything backed up in the cloud, but then we realized it would take us 2 weeks to download everything back from the cloud. So we paid them, and we did not report them to the SEC either, which we should have done. And that's going to be one of the lessons today is if you do get hacked, you do need to report it to the SEC. And then one day on my corporate card, I noticed that I had bought a Domino's pizza, and I bought a $15 pizza and left a $25 tip on a $15 pizza. Yeah, I'm generous. I'm a good tipper. All right, so let's get to me. Okay, so who am I? I'm Caroline Dunn from Atlanta. I went to Georgia Tech. I am one of 12% of the women who graduate from Georgia Tech from the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering. If you have questions about that, I'll talk to you about that at lunch. I could do a whole presentation about what it's like to be 12% female in the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Georgia Tech. I did a bachelor's and a master's there. I was there for a really long time. I went on. I did not pursue a traditional career in electrical engineering. Unfortunately, I did an MBA in marketing. Right now, I'm on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube. I'm Caroline on YouTube. I have 22,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'm also a gold and silver medalist for Team USA. So last year, I went to the World Regionals in Toronto, competed against Central America, US, well, not US, I'm part of US, and then Canada and Mexico. Competed against them. I won the gold medal in the 8K and the silver medal in the 10K competition. And then the picture that you see, thank you, Team USA. Yes. And the picture you see, that is me at mile 26 of the New York City Marathon. And, but the picture is really because I entered this competition last year. It was an international Amazon competition. It was for Amazon Echo. So if y'all have questions about Echo, I can talk about Amazon Alexa all you want. They had a competition, top 10 finalists. I was the only female in the top 10. It was me and 9 guys, which is like Georgia Tech. It was fine. And then I'm the only one from the Southeast United States. So there was no other winner from Florida or South Carolina or North Carolina or Alabama. I'm the only winner from the Georgia, this area. So that's me in a nutshell about, just to introduce myself. So I'm not claiming to be an expert in cybersecurity. I would say a true expert of cybersecurity would be somebody like a Charles K. Edwards, former acting inspector for the US Department of Homeland Security. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it today. He is under indictment from the United States. He has 16 counts of indictment, conspiracy to commit theft of government property, defraud the government, theft of government property, wire fraud, and aggravated identity theft. He is our true cybersecurity expert. Okay, I just want to be honest, okay, about how this works. All right, so, but what I'm going to give to you today is my top 10 predictions for the future of cybersecurity, and this is a countdown list. So we'll start with number 10. So everything will be cybersecurity. Cybersecurity will become ubiquitous. So let's start with every innovation will be evaluated for security and privacy. So what did we learn in our last talk? We learned that people started bringing in Amazon Alexas, and that was a violation of privacy. So for those of you who don't know about Amazon Alexa or Google Home, they both do this. After you say the wake word, the word that triggers them, they do record on your account a short recording of what you said immediately afterwards. Okay, there is a kind of a generational gap about the Amazon Alexa. Everybody I've spoken to over 50 hates it. Everybody under 50 kind of likes it. You know, it's kind of that, you know, because for some reason, everybody I've spoken to over the age of 50 on Amazon Alexa says it's recording all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, everything you say, whether you're talking to her or not, whether it's on mute or not. That's not true. But it does, and Google Home does exactly the same thing. After you say the trigger word, hey Google, it does make a short recording. It records it on your account. And unless you turn it off, by default it is on. Unless you turn it off, an employee can listen to what you said. Now the NSA, I don't know. We'll have somebody from the Department of Defense later on. He'll comment more about how he goes over your recordings every night, after work and. Okay. And then, so how many of you guys had that flashlight app on your phone, on your smartphone? Okay. Yes. Do we all know about the flashlight app? It turned out it did more than just the flashlight app, right? It collected all the information about us. And so mobile, it's shocking to me how people are so like, oh my God, my Alexa's listening to me, my Alexa's, recording everything I say, when your phone knows everything about you. Okay, if you're having an affair, your phone knows it. Okay? So I was actually at a speech where somebody actually said this, and we all looked, and we were all really like, kind of like, ooh, and then we realized none of us were having affairs, and then we got really sad after that. So I just saw an article last week on Forbes. Google Play deactivated 600 apps in their store last week for violating our privacy. So they specifically talked about one app that recorded every website you went to, even if you were on private browsing mode, and reported it back to their servers. So it's still going on today. And it is really scary. And we do need to look at all the terms and conditions. We do need to look at privacy policies. We need to be vigilant about our own cybersecurity, if nothing else. I saw an article where employees or contractors of Amazon, who were legitimate people who were supposed to review recordings. They are supposed to review a small portion of the recordings. It is supposed to be so that Amazon will work better. Because the way we talk to Alexa, we have accents and we have regional things that we say. And they are supposed to try to make that better, understand us better. They were sharing all the embarrassing things amongst themselves, and it got out, and they got in big trouble about that. So that's bad. Have you guys heard about somebody who sent a recording of their private conversation to somebody else on Alexa? You can on Alexa say, send a message, and then record a message, and then name the person you want to send it to, and then verify and say, yes, I want to talk to that person. So you can do that, and this couple apparently, Alexa, the Alexa was in the other room. Apparently, it thought it said that. They recorded a private conversation and sent it to the husband's employee. Yes, all right. Yeah, that was bad. All right, number 9. Let's go to the next slide. GDPR comes to the United States. All right, so how many of you guys are familiar with GDPR in the UK? In the EU, sorry, not UK, EU, all right. So that was groundbreaking legislation on privacy. And I think that rolled out in 2018. And the big question was, is it coming to the US? Well, yeah, it came to the US. California is known for their consumer privacy. And this is very distracting. Sorry. Sorry. So California has now passed the California Consumer Privacy Act, and it's similar to what we're seeing in the EU. And that's probably starting a wave. So one of my predictions is that's starting a wave into the US with more consumer privacy and higher fines for cyber criminals. It's an election year. Okay, and I think this is something we can all agree on. No matter what your party or political beliefs are, you're going to vote for somebody who's going to say, "I'm going to bring cybersecurity, cyber criminals to justice." And we're going to be putting pressure on our legislators to pass more legislation. Now, do I think this is actually going to work? No, I don't. Sadly. I mean, the Can Spam Act was passed, 20 years ago, and I still get spam every single day today. That hasn't really changed anything for me, but it is something that we have control over. That is something we can do, is we can pass laws and see how that goes. So, all right. Number 8, deepfakes. Now, who's seen a deepfake video? Okay, everybody has to raise their hand because there's one on the screen right now. All right, so the video I'm showing right now, it's a GIF actually. It's Rachel McAdams, I think it's the actress, and they've reskinned it with the face of Nicolas Cage. So I saw my first deepfake video, I think last year. It was the Mark Zuckerberg. Who's seen the Mark Zuckerberg deepfake video? Yes, yeah. All right, so imagine you're at work and you see a video of your boss, of your CEO making a big announcement saying he's shutting down the company or he's announcing layoffs. Would that not create a huge amount of panic in the company? What if it was fake? How do you know it's real? You see a CEO your CEO up there announcing layoffs, how do you know it's real or fake? Well, let's take it down a notch. Let's say your boss calls you up on the phone and says, hey, send this sensitive information to this new vendor I'm working with, or send payment to my new vendor. How do you know it's really your boss? So the deepfake video is like super hard to make. It's super hard to do. It's a lot of, you're going to do that at CEO level. You're going to do that. But let's say you just want to do a boss and a voice fake video. That's going to be a lot easier to do. So in my previous company, the CEO would tell the CFO, hey, pay this vendor. This is something we want to do, and the CFO would say, okay, send me a text message. Just to verify or have some sort of question. All right, so deepfakes. We're going to see a lot of deepfakes this year. All right, number 7, the cloud will only get bigger. Now, this is how cyber criminals attack us. This is how they got into this business in the first place. In the olden days, yeah, they had to break into a real store and get your data. Now it's on the cloud. Now they're able to send a phishing email. Now they're able to get into your networks because your data is in the cloud. So the obvious solution is to take everything on-prem and take everything off the cloud. Is that going to happen? No. That's completely unrealistic for me to get up here and say that we're going to take everything on-prem. You're not going to have all your data in one place. That means you've created a single point of failure and one big fire, and that's the end of your company right there. You can't, it's unrealistic. So we're only going to keep on putting more and more things in the cloud. And we have to have good cybersecurity professionals to protect our data, protect our networks. Back to the vape sensors, 31 billion IoT devices this year. Our projections are 75 billion in the next 4 years, next 5 years. I have 30, me personally, I have a small home, and I have 30 IoT devices in my home. I had to buy 2 new routers for that, just to keep that going. So I have every switch, I have every thermostat, I have every light switch, every plug, everything on my network at home. So I'm 30 devices just by myself. All right. Number 6. 2020 will be the year of 5G rollout. We already saw a lot of that happen in 2019. This year is the big year of 5G. What does that mean for us? It means more IoT devices on cellular. And thus, criminals go where the opportunity is, and criminals will have to start figuring out how to hack devices over cellular. Number 5, more AI on both sides. Y'all know that when I say AI, I'm talking about artificial intelligence, right? So offensive AI, hackers will be able to utilize AI. I could completely see AI turning into a volume game. That instead of going to every company one by one as a cyber criminal, hacking into each company one by one, that's work, y'all. They're looking for shortcuts. So they create something where they can turn this into a volume game, and they're able to use the same malware over and over again, or just automate their whole hacking process. So these criminals commonly use command and control tactics. This is derived from C2 military tactics. They penetrate the network undetected. They embed data in DNS requests, bypass the firewall. All right. So I think I was talking to a friend of mine who's in the banking industry, and they said that they had written an algorithm where the way hackers get into your, believe it or not, the way a lot of hackers get into your financial data is they actually go into like the home page of your bank, and they have your login and password, and they have an automated way of logging into your bank. And what the bank noticed is that if somebody came in and they typed in their login and password too fast, and and even though they have the right information, if they typed it in too fast, then that was a hacker because they're using AI, it's an automated method. So then the bank came out with their own security check, and if you typed in your password too fast, it would reject you because of the time. So then the hacker went back and created a new algorithm where it goes to your website, it pauses for 5 seconds, then it types in your login really slowly, then it pauses, and then it types in your password, and it pauses, and then it hits the login button. So that's offensive, defensive, offensive, it's just back and forth. And now what they're looking at is, even though you have the correct login and password, if you're a hacker, you've shown the signs, it looks like you actually get to log in. So they take you into another page that looks like you can see transactions, you can make transactions, you can look like it's working. And then when you hit, transfer money or send a check, it just kind of doesn't go anywhere. So you're taken into this fake room because you're a hacker. So it's back and forth on both sides, how it works. So we do need, as the good people, hopefully we're all the good people in here, we do need as good people to protect our networks from the edge. And that's what we're going to see with AI. Okay, number 4, hackers will attack small business. So as I said, in my previous point, this is going to turn into a volume game with artificial intelligence for cyber criminal. And the big companies, I told you at the beginning, I shopped at Target and I've shopped at Home Depot. All right, they have all beefed up on their cybersecurity. They have all hired, a ton of people for cybersecurity, and they're really good at it now. They're getting better, at least, about it, because they want to avoid another huge fiasco in the media. All right? So with cyber criminals using more AI, they're going to go to smaller companies. This is going to be a volume game for them. And this leaves small to medium-sized businesses prime targets for the next round of attacks. All right. So on to more small businesses. I predict, number 3, that hackers will focus on healthcare specifically. Did you know that your health data is worth more on the black market than your financial data? Why is that? Criminals are setting up fake clinics where if they can steal your health data, they can put in that you had all these surgeries, all these procedures that you never had at a clinic that never existed, where you've never been. And then after you had all these fake procedures that they've billed your insurance company for, you're going to need some opioids. We're going to need some pain reliefs for that. And they will fill those prescriptions for real so they can sell it on the black market. So my understanding is, especially if you're under the age of 18, they really want to go for, those are the best people to steal. $1,200 on the black market for your child's financial data, for your child's health data. $1,200 is what's worth that today to sell to hacker. Yes. You also look at, in my last point I said, okay, it's going to be smaller businesses they're going to focus on, and healthcare. When you look at a lot of doctors' offices, the doctor is the main person of that office. They did not study cybersecurity in school. They studied bones and tissues or whatever. They've been to school for a million years. They've racked up $400,000 in student loan debt, and they know everything about your body, but they are not cybersecurity experts. They're not going to want to set up these really sophisticated systems and hire somebody. They're going to be prime targets. These small doctors, these legitimate, not that fake clinic I just talked about a minute ago. These legitimate doctors are going to not know anything about cybersecurity. They're going to be the head of their office, and they are going to have all your medical records, and that is a prime target for cyber criminals. And of course, financial fraud, is here to stay. I mean, that's just table stakes. Everybody needs to know how to do that. Or if you're a criminal, you're going to have to know how to do that. So that's not going away. We're still gonna do that. All right. And number 2 here, multi-factor authentication. So we have, who in here? How many of you guys are managing 50 passwords? At least 50 passwords. Only a couple of you. All right. 60 passwords. So the good news here is that logins and passwords are a thing of the past. Well, you still have to know the password, all right? But now you've got to authenticate with a password, a security question, your mobile device, the location of your mobile device, Face ID, fingerprint. You know, we are going to see more two-factor authentication. We could potentially see three-factor authentication this year, right? So, for example, a lot of banks, you know, as I said, it's table stakes. A lot of banks, you're going to go up to your ATM machine. You're going to say, hey, I want money from the ATM machine. It's going to say, pull out your phone. I need to know that your phone is at the ATM machine. You know, and you know, if you're logged in, if you log into your online banking and then 5 minutes later you log into your online banking from Africa, that's probably not you, right? But there is still a weak link in this multi-factor authentication, right? Let's say you legitimately or illegitimately, you're trying to log in, your password gets turned off because it looks like a cyber criminal, because there are a lot of false positives. So that's the other flip side of that. The weak link is the call center. You're still going to have to call the call center, whether you're real or not, to say, hey, unlock my account. And I've heard about people calling the call center, and you know, you want to know they need to know verify your identity. So they'll say, what's your mother's maiden name? And the cyber criminal will say, well, my dad was remarried 4 times. Can I have 4 tries at my mother's maiden name? So the call center people will need the most amount of training, because that is the key to getting back into your account. You know, I mean, and there's so many ways that we can, as IT, be able to turn off accounts when the login's not right or when we feel that it's a wrong person. But when we get too many false positives, the business comes back on you and says, why are you turning everybody's account off? You're killing the call center. So there's a balance here of how this works, right? All right, and number one, here's the good news, is it means more opportunity for you. It means more opportunity for everybody in this room, because we're here at the Cybersecurity Conference, and you're studying cybersecurity or IT or some form of that, right? Cybersecurity jobs average $100,000 per year. There are so many different types of sample job titles: security administrator, analyst, security architect, security auditor, security consultant, security engineer, security manager, security software developer, security specialist, security code auditor, vulnerability assessor, CISO. The list goes on and on. So a friend of mine was telling me the other day, he's on a security team, and they had an opening in their department, and they convinced the network engineer to come over into their group. And he agreed to do it because it was more money, right? He wanted to make more money, so he came over into the security group. Well, they did not think through this whole process, because now they don't have they don't have a network administrator. So that drives up what they're going to have to pay a network administrator as well too, to backfill the jobs. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the rate of growth for jobs in information security is projected at 37% from 2012 to 2022. That is faster than all other occupations. Cybersecurity Ventures' prediction is that there will be 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs by next year, by 2021, up from 1 million positions in 2014. Harvard Business Review is also saying that their report says the majority of chief information security officers around the world are worried that there aren't going to be enough people with cybersecurity skills in the future. So this is a great field to get into, and it has staying power. This cybersecurity is not going away anytime soon. As I mentioned before, criminals go where the opportunity is, and we're not going to take things out of the cloud. So there's always going to be opportunities for criminals and for the good guys. And my bonus prediction, this is a segue into our next speech, actually, is that I'm not just talking about private sector jobs as opportunities for everybody here. I'm also talking about government jobs. The next Cold War could be fought on the cyber front and it already is, yes. I mean, there's a lot of people who say that Russia tried to influence our 2016 election. Don't you think that the United States isn't trying to influence some election somewhere in the world that serves their purpose? We're not naive, guys. Team USA. And we'll learn more about that from the Department of Defense later on after lunch here. All right, so what does this mean? Why did I go through this whole process here? Those are my top 10, actually top 11 predictions for cybersecurity. So my big takeaway from this presentation is without trained cybersecurity professionals, not only is your financial future at stake, but your physical health could also be in danger without cybersecurity professionals. Imagine somebody hacking into a nursing home or a hospital and purposely changing all of the prescriptions and doses. Imagine, and at the beginning I kind of talked about, new technologies, VR, AR. How many of you guys are into virtual reality, augmented reality in here? Right? Let's say we're going into a nursing home. We're going to do some Hawaii therapy, some relaxation therapy with some patients in a nursing home. And you put on the headset, and instead of Hawaii, you see a haunted house. And it sends somebody into shock, and they die. We're going to have to evaluate everything for security and privacy here. How many of you guys have downloaded Kali Linux and are working on that? Yeah? Yeah? How's that going? All right, yeah. So if you're not on Kali Linux, I highly recommend. How many of you guys are working on a certification? CompTIA. Okay. Very good, very good. How many of you guys are not, why are you not working? Why is not everybody in this hand? You already have your certification? Is that why? I'm just making fun of y'all. I'm just making Anyway, so with that said, that's the end of my presentation. So my name's Caroline Dunn. You can find me on social media. I'm Caroline Dunn or I'm Caroline, or I'm the Caroline Dunn.
Very cool.
Yeah.